And we begin this morning with attacks against 2 U.S. diplomatic compounds overseas. First, Libya, where militants staged a protest outside the U.S. consulate in Benghazi. It is leading to violent clashes with security forces and the death of a State Department officer. The other powder keg is in Cairo, where several men managed to scale the walls of the U.S. embassy. Take a look at this. They tore down the American flag, all the anti-American anger stemming from an amateur online film that has offended millions of Muslims. Ian Lee is live from Cairo this morning. I want to start with what has caused all this outrage.
Also, right, it all focuses around a film. And the film, like you said, is very amateurish. It's a mishmash of clips. It's really incoherent. I've watched the film, but it has a lot of things that Muslims would find offensive about their prophet. So this is what sparked the clashes that we saw last night, when thousands of people gathered outside the U.S. Embassy, where a handful of protesters actually breached the embassy compound, tore down the American flag, like you just saw, and ripped it apart. And these protesters are also calling for more protests against the U.S. Embassy. A question we're wondering is, where were the security services? The embassy issued a statement well before the demonstrations warning citizens not to go near the U.S. Embassy. Egyptian intelligence also warned that there could be large protests at the embassy. Well, the security forces eventually did arrive, and this morning I walked by the embassy, I checked out the scene, and there were riot police in front of the embassy as well as military. But the question now is, officials are wondering why it took so long to secure the embassy when the protesters first arrived, Zoraida.
And are there still protesters on site? Can you see that, or have they all been cleared away?
Well, it's not clear whether the protesters were cleared away or they just went home. There were a dozen or so protesters milling around outside the embassy, but there are calls for continued sustained protests to go out against this video.
Ian, there was also a protest that turned deadly in Libya. What can you tell us about that?
What witnesses are telling us is that a group, a radical Islamic group called Ansar al-Sharia, was the ones that were at the compound, the U.S. Compound, during the time of the attack. A U.S. State Department official was killed during that attack. Hillary Clinton came out condemning the attack, saying that she's also working with diplomatic missions around the world to ensure their security. The Libyan government also came out condemning the attack, saying that they're going to investigate the matter.
All right, Ian Lee, live in Cairo this morning. Thank you very much.